Well, happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you. Could have done something easy like Leprechaun or Leprechaun 2 or Leprechaun 3. But I figured I'd go for a different kind of Irish horror movie. That being The Hallow, which is a 2015 film. I watched it on Shudder here in Canada. I assume that it's on Shudder in other countries too. Yeah, let's just get into it. It's not so much, it's obviously not a St. Patrick's Day movie, but it's in Ireland, so it counts. Alright, whatever. Spoiler alert, you know the drill, talking about the movie, you've been warned. If you don't want to hear about events that happen in the movie, or spoilers or anything like that, do not watch this video after this point. There you go. That gave you time to shut it off. So anyway. So we've got this family that's moving to a forested area of Ireland. Shut up. Car honking out there. You done? Alright. Okay. I don't even know if that picked up on the camera, but anyway. So we got a family that moved out to this wooded area of Ireland, and he's like a forestry agent or whatever. So his job, he's been sent from the UK to this forested area to, I guess, check on diseased trees and whatnot. So it shows him, you know, wandering about. He's putting an X on trees that are, there's like this weird black goo on it or whatever, and he's like, alright, that's weird. So this tree is obviously not good. Turns out a lot of the trees in that forested area are going home with X's on them. So that's fine. His neighbor, who is a farmer or whatever by the name of Colm, he's not too fond of him. He's like, you're trespassing, and Adam's like, it's my job. I'm literally here on behalf of the government or whatever, and it's the whole thing. I guess they're in Northern Ireland, maybe? I don't know. Because I don't know why they'd send someone from like the UK to Ireland. So, the Republic of Ireland. So it must be Northern Ireland, let's just assume. Yeah, so anyway. There's a whole thing with Colm, and he's kind of abrupt with Claire, who is Adam's wife. She's at home while Adam's out doing his tree thing, and he's like, yeah, like I said, you're trespassing, and it's his job and whatever, and tell him to come speak to me. She's like, okay, yeah, I'll tell him to come tomorrow. He's like, no, tonight. That's okay. Wow, okay. This guy's pretty intense, right? So anyway, back to where Adam is exploring. He finds this old building, and inside the building, up against like a corner, like a wall section, like the corner of the wall, whatever, there's a dead, rotting deer, like propped up kind of with its head like going up the crack of the wall. And it's sticky and gooey, so I'm going to be using the word goo a lot in this review because there is lots of goo. And this deer has goo on it, along with little protrusions on it. And so Adam takes a sample of that, and he brings it back home. He's got like a miniature laboratory, like a microscope and that kind of stuff. Not like a lab, but, you know, a portable one for his job, I guess, right? And he's looking at these cells, and it shows them, these cells have like cilia or flagellum or whatever, but they're like spiked, and they're like stabbing into and infecting other cells or whatever. So right away his mind goes to, okay, cordyceps. So what is that, you may ask? That's that fungus that infects ants and takes over them and basically controls their body, makes them go into the hive and infect all the other ones, and then they die and they go up to where there's light or whatever, and then they consume the ant and grow out of the ant as a fungus and release more spores and good stuff like that. So the goo on the deer and the protrusions suggest that this is a type of cordyceps, a weird fungal thing. So that's interesting. That could be very bad news if it's, you know, moved on to animals. I don't know if there are any that currently can attack things as large as like a deer or whatever. Maybe there are, I don't know, but as far as I know, they're like limited to small animals like insects, mice, I think, maybe. So I mean, theoretically, if it's in a mouse, that's a mammal. A deer is a mammal. It's not too unrealistic to assume it would jump. Anyway, we're getting sidetracked here on fungus. So he goes back downstairs, and they have a child, by the way. So yeah, it's Adam the dad, Claire the mom, and Finn the baby. I don't know why triangle, but Finn's the baby, and Colm the angry neighbor. So they put Finn to bed, and he's making a little bit like weird baby dream noises on the monitor, and Claire's kind of like, should I go check on him? And it's like, no, he's fine. He's just having little baby dreams. And then it starts crying, and they hear a noise upstairs, and they run upstairs quickly, and just as she's about to get to the door slams, and she hears the baby screaming and the window smash, and she breaks into the room, and baby's okay, thankfully, but like, yeah, the window smashed, there's glass everywhere, there's right away Adam is like, it's probably Colm. He's pissed off at me, right? I mean, he's trying to scare us off or something or whatever. So they call the cops, and the cops are like, yeah, that's not him. You gotta understand, the neighborhood is kind of like paranoid. So when they tell you you're trespassing in the woods, they believe in like the Hallow. He's like, what's that? And you're like, they're like fae folk, like fairies and that kind of stuff. And they're like, okay, you believe this? And the cop's like, no, I'm from Belfast, I don't believe in that stuff. But the locals, they take it very seriously. But that being said, I mean, he attributes it to like a drunk bird or something, like a bird that saw something sparkly and flew into the window and whatever, I don't know. Obviously, Adam isn't buying it. He's like, all right, cop leaves. He's like, yeah, that's kind of odd. Anyway, the next day, he's like, okay, well, I'm going to go get the window repaired. I'm going to drive into the nearest town, and we'll go get it fixed. And she's like, all right. So he takes Finn for a drive, I guess. Baby's like drives, right? So may as well. And she's cleaning up in the interior of the house. And Colm shows up while she's cleaning, and she's obviously a little bit freaked out, thinking that he's the one who vandalized their house and all that stuff. And he has got a very stern expression on his face. He's got a buddy with him with like a cage of ferrets or weasels or something, which that never really comes into play, but it's just a weird little thing. Maybe they're ferret farmers, I don't know. But anyway, he's like, listen, here, boom, puts a book on the table, and tells him essentially like, yeah, stop going in the woods. Stop it. Here's a book. Enjoy. Good read. Obviously, I guess he didn't have it. He didn't have the code for its Kindle or whatever version. Anyway, or Audible or whatever the hell it is. Anyway, stupid joke. Not even funny. He takes off, and back in the store, he's getting the window fixed, and the guy's like, you're the tree doctor, right? He's like, well, not exactly, but yeah, essentially. I guess word travels that he's in town, and all of the locals are not thrilled about him exploring this sacred or haunted or whatever you want to call it, the Fae folk forest area. So that's a concern apparently across the whole town, because the window guy is also saying like, listen, I'll fix this for you, but yeah, you're best to just stick to your own property and whatnot. And it's like, okay, well, listen, I mean, Adam doesn't believe in fairy folk, right? Like, it's all fairy tales and shit. Anyway, he comes back, and she mentions that Colm was there, and of course he's kind of like, oh shit, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, all he did was like leave this book. And he opens it, and he's like, it's fucking fairy tales. A quote. I'm not just swearing to swear, that's a quote. Right, okay, so before he got back or whatever, though, Adam he was almost all the way home, and his car had started messing up. It was swerving a little bit, and the interior, like the dash lights were flicking on and off, and like the tape deck ate his tape, like spitting out the tape and all that. And car dies essentially, and he gets out, and he's looking at the engine, and there's a little bit of goo on it, and he's like, assuming it's oil probably, right? Like an oil leak or something. So he's looking in there, and he goes around to the boot, as they say over the pond there. So the hood is the bonnet, and the trunk is the boot. So I'm going to be referring to it as such. So anyway, he goes to the boot, and something shoves him in and slams him in, and there he is, locked in there, and he's like, well, what the hell? And then he can hear his kid screaming, and then the car starts shaking, so things are trying to get into the car. And it shows like the door being pulled a little bit too, and he's in the trunk, so he can't really do anything. But what he does do is he starts tearing through the fabric of the back seat, because I guess it's a fold down or whatever. And he ends up ripping through the seat to the into the back of the car, and then it stops shaking, and I guess everything's all good because he's there and he's seeing things, whatever. He's pissed off right away, like he's thinking it's Colin, right? So anyway, that's when he grabs the baby and he starts walking back to the home. And then when he gets home, that's when she's like, yeah, Colin was here. And right away he's like, okay, so he probably messed with my car, locked me in the boot to like come and friggin' harass my wife. And she shows him the book and he's like, okay, we're calling the cops. Like, this is friggin' ridiculous. He grabs a gun and he's like, this is just for protection until the cops get here. She attempts to call the cops and all the power shuts off. At this point, I believe it was dark in the movie, which, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. So the thing about the Hallow people here, the Fae folk, is, well, it turns out they're changelings. So I'm just going to call them that because it's the easiest thing to refer to. So they're changelings, which means essentially in folklore, a changeling is a Fae folk who will take a person's baby and replace it with one of their own, so that it's like a cuckoo, like the bird, the cuckoo, who pushes out the eggs of a bird and then lays its own eggs, and then that bird just raises it as its own, and the cuckoo doesn't have to like be a parent or whatever. So that's kind of what the changelings are. They replace the baby with their own, and the baby gets raised and whatever. And what happens to the human baby? Well, I mean, it varies. Sometimes they eat it, sometimes they kill it, sometimes they raise it as one of their own or infect it or whatever they want to do. And I guess they're going the infection route here because it turns out it's like a cordyceps thing, like the fungus. So they're going with that route. Essentially, okay, so where did I leave off? Oh, jeez. This is going to be one of those again, eh? So yeah, he comes back and Colin. His dog is like barking crazy, and it comes back and has like a black goo thing in its mouth, and its eye is all red. And Adam's like, this is outside the property, and Adam's like, okay, this is not good. What did they do to you? And the dog runs off and chases something, and you hear it whimper and is silenced. And this is when the changelings start to reveal themselves. And they're creepy little creatures. They're humanoid. Slightly smaller than people, I guess, essentially. So they lock themselves in the house again, and they put up iron, which apparently, according to like fairy tales, I guess iron is like a deterrent or something. It's not like I don't know if it's poison to them or whatever, but it seems to be effective in keeping them up. So they're putting iron bars on the windows, hanging like cast iron pots and stuff as deterrents, and it kind of sort of works. One comes to the window, and with the aid of light, like they flash the light at it and it goes away. So I don't know if it's the light or if it was the iron or combined thing of the two, but yeah, they don't like light apparently, so that's also good to know. So they got to survive through the night. And these things are relentless. They're try to get in all over the place. Yeah, he's at one point, they're like, where was he? He was surrounded at one point by them. I think it was by the car. Right. Okay, so they eventually leave to go back to the car, all three of them, after our good friend Adam gets stabbed in the eye. So that was a fun scene. So he's looking through the peephole when it's like a moment of quiet, and then like a needle thing just goes whoosh, right into his eye, and he's like, ah. Anyway. Turns out that needle thing is actually infecting him. So he is slowly, I guess, becoming a changeling? I don't really know. He's infected anyway, but he's still himself. It's like a slow process, I guess. So anyway. He's down and out for the count, and she's trying to wake him, but I don't know, he's good. They go into the room, they put... Sorry, I know this is all over the place. They go upstairs and they put Finn into like a cupboard. And they're like, he's safer here. You know, there's iron things on the door, so like they can't get into it or whatever. he's safer than us holding him, because if one of us falls, it'll just grab it, whatever. And then, okay, whatever, fine. After a while, she wants to check on the baby. He's like, no, like, leave it in there, because it's way safer in there. Now, fun fact, I forgot to mention the previous attack when Claire was in the attic. I think they have the ability to, like, eat through wood with that black goo. So it was slowly, like, reached up, and his hand was, like, right at her face, and it opened up the tip of its finger, and the little needle slowly came out towards her eye. And this is when he was trying to turn on the generator so they'd have light. So I totally forgot the scene. I'm so sorry. Anyway, he succeeds in turning the generator on, and this thing's hand just quickly goes, gone, right? So it's out of the picture. Move my arm too fast. I'm too old, and I like my muscle. Anyway. Oh man, terrible. Yeah, so that happened. Anyway, fast forward to back where we are. He's been stabbed in the eye. Baby's in the cupboard or whatever. But he's blind in one eye. He's got like a bandage over it. So she is like, whatever, I'm going to check on my baby anyway. And honestly, it's a good thing she did, because she slowly pulls the hedge clippers up that were like blocking the door so that it doesn't make a noise and alert Adam. And she looks in, and the whole back of the closet has been melted through the black goo, and she sees a changeling face holding her baby, and boom, it's gone. So she screams, clearly. Adam is like, what's going on? And that happens. What was after that? So she chases the creatures. Yeah, so he comes up into the attic or whatever, and like he falls down the ladder because like the changelings are in there, and he gets scratched on his face and all that. And she goes to chase the baby because like he's out, he's not getting up. He's alive, but he's not. You know, she's got to stop this before it becomes an issue. So she sees the baby being pulled into the water like a swamp, and it goes under the water, and she jumps in, and there's like 10 seconds of like just still water, and she pops up and she has Finn. She got the baby. So she comes back to the house. Adam is up. He's looking worse for wear. Like his eye, he looked in the mirror and it was like clouded over, so he knows that he's infected. He's cordycept, if you will. Yeah, so he has the bandage over it, and he doesn't want to worry his wife, I guess. She has the baby, and he's like, what is that? And she's like, it's Finn. He's like, that's not Finn. She's like, yeah, it is. I got him back. I chased him. They pulled him into the water. I dove in and I grabbed him. He's like, do you really think that they would give him back to you? And so she's convinced that it is Finn. He's convinced that it's a changeling. We don't know what it is at this point. So he grabs the baby and goes into I think it's the kitchen or into another room anyway. And through his eyes, he's seeing it as a changeling. And through her eyes, she's seeing it as Finn. So is it the infection that's making him think that it is, so that he'll do whatever? I don't know. Anyway, he takes an iron nail, and he's holding it close to the baby's forehead. And in his vision, it's like making a little bit of a hole where the nail is just above the baby's skin. But in Claire's eyes, she sees him looking worse for wear, out of his mind, holding a big-ass nail above her baby's head. So she obviously does what she has to do, and she stabs him in the back with another big-ass spike nail thing, and he falls, and she grabs the baby and runs out. And he's like, no, like, Claire, I'm trying to tell you this isn't the baby, and whatever. She goes into like the shed garage area thing and like barricades the door, and he's trying to break in. And he does break in, and there's a scuffle again, and there's a whole thing. It's not Finn. He's trying to tell her. He collapses though after he breaks in, and he's like slowly turning into the Hallow or Hallow, whatever. His injuries even are healed. Like his scratch is like slowly, like you can see it scarring over again. His eye is like somewhat better. Well, not really. His eye is like a fey eye now. It's like creepy-ish. Like if you've seen District 9 when like Vicus starts turning into the prawn or whatever, well, one of his eyes is weird. It's like about that much different from a human eye. It doesn't look like the prawn eye, but whatever, you get the picture. So she takes off with Finn, obviously. She runs to Cullum's place because that's the nearest neighbor, and she's banging on the door, and he opens the door and he has a gun right on her. He's like, you get the hell out. She's like, please, I believe you now. You were right. And he's like, there's nothing I can do. They take what you love. They took my girl. So his daughter, Cora, had been taken years ago by the Fae folk. And I guess he was trying to be doing his due diligence to warn them not to go in the woods because the same shit will happen to them. His girl's gone. Anyway, he's like, I can't help you. I'm sorry. Get off my property before they come here. So she does because... you know, immediate death versus gun, or potentially maybe escaping from the things chasing you. You gotta go with the things chasing you, I guess. Anyway. Adam has taken it upon himself at this point to go find the hive, I guess you would call it, of the changelings. And he finds that. And he's got this scythe, and the blade has like a kerosene-soaked thing wrapped around it, so the blade is on fire. That's his light source, plus his weapon. So he's swinging around this cave. He's like completely surrounded, not cave, but their little den, nest, wooded thing. A burrow, I guess? I don't know. It's in like a hollow, like a little clearing in the forest or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, they're all around him. He's using this to keep them back. He's essentially fending them off because of the light and whatnot, but more and more of them are showing up, and it's becoming increasingly obvious that he's outnumbered. So at which point one of them approaches, who is more humanoid looking and has long hair, and he right away assumes, oh shit, that's probably Cora, isn't it? And she's a full-on changeling, so that's not good. At this point, Claire has also been chased into the woods or whatever. She's using like a flash on a camera to keep these things at bay and whatnot. But they're coming all around her, right? So it's the same kind of situation that was happening with him when he had the scythe and whatnot. And then out of the clearing steps Adam, and he's like more foregone than he was before. So he's like more changeling, but he's like, his voice is even a little bit weird, and he's holding a fin, and she's holding a fin. Which one is the real Finn? Well, isn't that the question? He is still trying to say, listen, I brought him back for you. Take him. This is Finn. What you have is a creature. It's like, it's nothing. It's not anything. And she's not sure what to do. And he like puts Finn down and steps back, kind of like, that's when these things start going, I guess, to get whichever of the two Finns is theirs. And he ends up killing one. He kills Cora, cuts her head off with the scythe and everything. So that's proof enough in Claire's mind to realize, okay, shit, he's still with it enough. He's killing these things. Obviously, he's not one of them yet, so I'm going to take his word for it. And I'm going to take his Finn and leave my Finn. Which she does, and she runs back to the house, and it's getting light out. And as the light is hitting the Finn that was left behind, nothing's happening to it initially, and Adam's like, fuck, did they trick me into thinking that she had the fake one so that I would force her to take the fake one and leave the real one? So he's like on the verge of devastation, and he's like pretty much gone. Oh shit, yeah, I forgot too. So as he's trying to convince her to take it before she runs off, one of them goes right through his stomach and basically disembowels him from behind. Not disembowels, but hand through. So he's toast. He's dying anyway. And yeah, as he's dying, that's when he's coming to the realization, like, oh shit, did they trick me? Does she have the changeling now? Anyway, as the sun intensifies, the Finn that was left behind does start smoking, and he's like, oh, thank God. And they show this, like, changeling baby die, and it's not a baby, like, you know it's not a baby, so it's not like they showed a baby dying, but it was, like, baby enough that I was like, okay, that was kind of neat. So, you can see, like, black veins in its face, then it slowly starts, like, its face peels, like, petals from a flower to show the skull, and a bunch of, like, cordyceps spike things fly up and start wiggling, and it's pretty cool. That was a really good scene. I enjoyed that thoroughly. Anyway. He's dead. She has the real Finn. She goes back to her home to this disaster that's everywhere. Whatchamacallit? Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the movie, essentially. As the credits roll, they show the forestry company that Adam had worked for basically clearing the forest and leveling it. So, good, I guess. No more Fae problem? Maybe. But then they show a close-up of one of the logging trucks, and there's black goo coming out of one of the logs that's strapped to this truck. And then you see something move in it. So it's, like, implied that they are, I guess, going with the logging trucks? I don't know. But, I mean, they'd be, like, if they're infected trees, they'd be incinerated anyway. So, I mean, I think it's kind of going to take care of itself. And then, yeah. After that happens, there's one last cheap jump scare of a changeling jumping out from out of the blackness, and then credits continue. So anyway, yeah, I'm sorry about how all over the place this one was. I really enjoyed this one a lot. Now, it got good reviews, so I figured I'd take it out. And I didn't want to just do Leprechaun because that's such a cliche thing to do for St. Patrick's Day. So this is Irish, and honestly, I've seen Leprechaun before, and this was way better than Leprechaun. I mean, okay, sorry, don't get me wrong. Leprechaun has its charms. It's goofy and silly and whatever, but like, as far as like a kind of creepy, scary movie goes, this one was way better. Wasn't necessarily scary, but like, there's a lot creepier and more serious tone than Leprechaun, obviously. The creature designs were pretty cool. I mean, you could tell that they were kind of computer-generated images, but it wasn't bad enough that it, like, ruined the movie by any means. Like, it wasn't, like, I'm trying to think of it really, like, The Mummy 1999, like, that had some really, like, obvious CGI. And don't get me wrong, that movie's fun, too, but, like, you know what I'm saying. Like, when the jaws go and everything, like, come on. Very, very obviously computer-generated. But, yeah, it wasn't like that. It was real enough. The use of darkness and, like, the flashes of the thing's eyes when the camera goes on them is really cool. Yeah, all around everything was solid. The acting was good. What am I going to rate this guy? I'm going to give it, it's in the 8s. It is in the 8s. I really did enjoy this. So I'm going to say 8 point, I don't know, 8.3? That sounds reasonable, I think, 8.3. So yeah, that was the Hallow. Not the Hollow. The Hollow's a whole other different movie. But this is the Hallow from 2015. Filmed in Ireland, or based in Ireland, or whatever. And yeah, should you watch it? I would say definitely watch this one. It's a cool concept. You don't see enough about, like, you know, fairy folk and stuff like that, of like Celtic mythology and stuff. I mean, I'm sure there are, but like, I haven't seen many of them. So this was a fresh change instead of, you know, like a vampire or zombies or werewolves or just a guy with a knife or whatever, you know. So for that aspect too, that adds bonus points to it. But yeah, 8.3, check it out. I really enjoyed it. It's on Shudder in Canada, so if you're Canadian and have Shudder, you can watch it right now, and you should. All right, happy St. Patrick's Day.